Welcome to today's community call. Just a reminder to everybody to update the minutes with their names and affiliation so we know who's joined. Looking at kicking off with our usual start from Ask the OpenJ9 community. There's been some discussion with people looking at running Eclipse with the IDE. There's been some discussion on Slack and a couple of issues that have been raised. Some of those have been brought to the Adopt project. One of them has to do with shipping free type with the IDE, or free type with the free type with the Java conflicts with the system free type library. So we need to look at not shipping that on, at least on Linux, possibly other platforms. So are there any other user-related items that we want to be talking about? All right. Then I will skip us along to the general business. We're down to very few items in the must fix for our release. I believe the only one left is the adopt issue with using Ccache, and I believe we have a fix for that. It's just a matter of getting it propagated to the release streams. So I will, hopefully after this meeting, be able to find all those PRs and get them propagated.
There is the issue that's causing the message catalogs not to be displayed properly as well, which is a JCK failure.
Message catalogs not being displayed. The resource bundle issue.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, it's picking up the wrong message catalog.
Yeah. We'll need to get that resolved as well. Thanks for the reminder.
Yep, it is being worked on by, sorry, I can't remember the name of who it was at the moment. But
Benjamin,
no, he passed it on to someone else now.
Okay. I don't see Irina on the call, so I can't talk to her particular table. Is there any, does anybody have, maybe I can talk to her. I see that our numbers are up slightly in some places. Nothing looks terribly increased. We still have a lot of work in progress PRs that need to be looked through and dealt with. But we see down slightly on the number of PRs, which is pretty close to steady over the last little bit. So constant set of work going in. Is there any concerns or any issues people would like to raise based on the tables we have here? Oh, Irina did join. Irina, did you want to provide any other updates on the tables?
Irina, can you hear us? Are you on mute?
I can hear you now, yes.
Okay, that's good.
I just joined.
That's fine.
Just saying thank you for putting the tables together. It's a much easier view the data here.
Okay, you're welcome. I'll put some of the older data there as well, so later on.
Was there anything you wanted to call out based on the tables?
Not really. Well, it seems a bit more obvious that the trends are increasing, and I don't have anything special to say. I'll follow up also with the cleanup. I'll ping a few people about cleanup. So that, nothing else. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Irina. So I will remove the action item to reformat this. A reminder again to tag issues that are appropriate for beginners or that are help wanted. And to ask all committers to take a look at some of the old pull requests and determine what's still relevant. All right. There's no other issues there. Let's move to machines. I thankfully have Charlie in the room here, so I'm going to stick him on the spot and ask him if there's an update on the UNB work and getting machines there.
No, well, there's an update. The update is we're still trying to track down the hardware. We're moving hardware from one of the labs to UNB, and at this point, they actually can't find the hardware in the lab. They can ping the machines, so they're there. They're just having trouble tracking down the physical hardware. Okay. So once they track down the hardware, we'll be shipping it out to UNB.
Do we have an estimate on, or a guess on when we'd be able to find that?
I don't know. Okay. There's 4 labs. They believe it's got to be in one of 2, but it could be in the other 2. Some sort of time per machine to go look at the asset number for type and try and find them. So I don't know. I would hope in the next week or so that we find them. And then we just have to image them and ship them out. Once they're there, I figure they'll start coming online probably within a week or so of being in UNB.
All right. And as of this morning, we received 2 more Linux x86 machines for use in our build farm. Are there any other issues around machines that we want to discuss? All right. So moving on to builds and platforms. The JRE package. Does anybody want to provide an update on that? Shelley, I know you've been involved in some of this work. Do you have?
I actually had a question, Stuart. Those you were originally building those as part of the OpenJ9 builds that adopt. I didn't see the JRE as an artifact any longer on that build. I wondered if that had changed or that's a mistake and I'm just not finding it.
That's a good question. I haven't removed it from anything.
Okay.
But
right.
Yeah, are we in a position where you want me to start making them available on all the other platforms as well now?
Well, I should verify that we have them on the one. I know Sophia had started putting in place some of the stuff we'll need to be able to test them.
Yeah.
So maybe let's locate the build that has them again. I'll give a look-see after this call. I went and looked last week and somehow I couldn't locate them again.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I haven't done anything to explicitly disable them that I recall. So just discuss it in hash build on the OpenJ9. I think we can discuss it. Cheers.
Thanks. Good.
Strange.
All right. For the large heap packages, the last status I see here is that the PR has been merged and that they're now built and tested and deployed to the Adopt website.
Yeah, so you should see that. I see them now. Both those and the Win32 builds are available and marked properly on the website so you can tell what you're getting.
Oh, that's perfect. So this is complete.
Yeah. Now, I didn't close the issue at Adopt for the large heap because I wasn't sure if you were just going to, for now, I know we wanted x86 Linux, but was there a plan for other issues or can I just close it and then we can reopen as we want other platforms?
I think let's close it and reopen as we want other platforms.
Okay.
x86
Perfect.
Linux has been the one that we've had requested.
Yep.
And until people are requesting the other platforms, I don't think we want to be building them all the time.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. So in terms of macOS binaries, I had a number of commits merged yesterday, and we're unfortunately blanking on the name. The developer on the JIT team who's been doing a lot of work on bringing it or building the JIT on Mac has had a couple of commits merged as well. And so we're continuing to work on building Mac. It's not yet able to run Java Dash version. There's another fix that I have today, and then we're running into some linking issues, and we'll see where we get to after that. But it continues to be one of my highest priorities. If anybody else wants to jump in and help with this, we're more than happy to have help as well.
Somebody commented in the macOS issue and offered to help, but they were looking for some pointers.
Okay. I will take a look at that. Is there any?
We maybe also put a link to that issue in the meeting notes.
Yeah, I can dig that up, I guess. Do that after this meeting. Unless somebody on the call already has the link and wants to paste it in. In terms of the ZOS build, is there any update here? All right. ARM32 and ARM64. I don't think there's been any progress on this over the past week. We're still going to need to pick up the ARM32 work that James has been doing to get the cross compiles enabled. So that'll be the next status there. If anybody is interested in helping move that forward, we'd love to have help there as well. Are there any other packages or issues there we should be discussing? In terms of end user experience, are there any issues in that particular set of queries that we want to look at today? Just for anybody who's not aware, the Eclipse board has agreed to ship the OpenJ9 JVM with the Eclipse IDE. And so we're probably going to see some issues from that community as they start to integrate our builds into the IDE. And so we'll need to be responsive and looking for those to try to get those resolved quickly. All right. WordPress blog. We continue to be thankful for all the people developing content there. It's been great to see the regular cadence of new blogs and new content going up there. So thank you to everybody who's been involved in that.
Yeah, and I think we have 2 drafts that are close to being published. There was a call out on the Slack channel to get a couple final reviews done. I think, Mark, you have a review ready. We're probably good to go on the memory post unless anyone has any objections. The good thing is if we need to, we can always edit after publishing if there's any gotchas. And then I believe we've given feedback to the cloud team for their draft, but if folks have a chance, give it a read, and then within the next few days, we'll probably be ready to go with that one as well.
Shelley, is that Slack channel on the open?
It's not on the open one right now. We have it on the internal one. I don't know that matters to the open one. The thing is, we're calling out to people who have editor privileges, so it doesn't really have as much meaning to be in the open with the public viewing it, since they wouldn't have editor privileges to be able to go and review stuff prior to it being published. So
Yeah, I'm just wondering if it makes sense to move it out now.
yeah.
Patient of the future where we may have editors.
Yeah, for sure. I'm good either way. I wasn't sure how to add Slack channels for the open one, or who to ask.
It would also be a good place for people to request.
It's content.
If people had requests for content, that would be
Absolutely.
A good place to realize that.
Yeah. Who?
Shelley, you just click the plus button.
And I can just create them. Woohoo! I have power. Okay. Done.
Are there any other issues in this area we want to discuss? Okay. For the 0.9 release, as we mentioned earlier, there's the fix that needs to be propagated for the adopt builds, and then there is a JCK failure. Are there any other issues blocking our release that anyone is aware of?
No, but I should just add, we're still going through other JCK failures. I getting the impression that it's the tend to be the GUI type tests that are running on cloud machines. So I'm trying to go through them running on my local machine and then trying to run them through remote desktop. But we haven't actually got to the end of going through those failures yet.
All right.
So a heads up, I guess.
I wanted to discuss having a release at the end of July or after around the 15th of July, when the next set of security updates are delivered for OpenJDK. So I think we have two options. I'd created a release plan at Eclipse to have Eclipse OpenJ9 0.10. The other option is just, we may not even be finished 0.9 by the time we get to July 15th, or maybe very close. So we could just refresh the OpenJ9 0.9 release with the latest code and pick up the Windows support for the direct dump reader.
Yeah, agreed. Let's work through all the failures we've got and see where we start and where we've got to against that.
I guess the thing is we should decide if we want to have a 0.10 release soon, because it takes at least 2 weeks to get approval from Eclipse. So we have to start probably this week to get the approval.
So I guess the question is, what is there ready to go in the 0.10 release, and is it worth doing now?
So the initial support for direct dump reader on Windows, there's a pull request open that still needs to be reviewed and merged, but I expect in the next couple of days we'll have it in. So I think we can just update and make a release candidate 2 and take the latest from OpenJ9 again, assuming it's looks good.
Yeah, and we either merge that with the April code base or the July code base, depending on where we've got to resolving the remaining problems.
Well, it's April right now, but if depending on when we're ready to actually create the release, it may be July may be available at that time, or maybe if we wait a few days, July would be available. Or I suppose you could do both. You could do one on April and then use the exact same version of OpenJ9 and do it again on July.
So yeah, that's what I was implying, rather than having a 0.10 release.
think we have a security fix in OpenJ9 that we probably need to deliver. It would have to come late in the cycle.
Yeah. We could deliver that to the line and pull it into the branch as well.
Yeah, I bet we could do it in the last half of April. July, sorry.
Are we going back in time?
Okay, so I'm not going to propose 010 for approval from Eclipse then.
Yeah, I think we should sort of write that out in a little more detail and blast it out on the mailing list just for wider awareness.
Are we going to have to put together another release ahead of when Eclipse, when the Eclipse project would be picking us up for the projects that they've decided to use us for?
Only if they find bugs, which I guess they already have because they don't like the fact that free type is included in the adopt builds.
Yeah.
We're working with the Eclipse community and Adopt. I think Shelley's taking the lead on it, on getting testing for Eclipse into Adopt. So we'll hopefully have a regular nightly build or a nightly test cycle there to at least smoke test the whether there's any immediate issues. So I think
the full set that they proposed is a little bit heavier than a smoke test, but I think we'll do a two style approach. One, take a subset for the nightlies, and we can see if we have the machine resources. I'd like to do the full 4 hours that they have suggested. I just will have to figure out what platforms we can get away with and in terms of time.
Yeah, I was just kind of wondering because the Eclipse tends to be interested in Windows platforms, and if we don't have DDR support on right away, I just wanted to make sure there was a release that has the DDR support on Windows in place before we would see substantial issues to need to work on.
We can have that later this week or next week, assuming the review goes well and we merge and create a release candidate too for 09.
Okay. All right. And we don't think that the likelihood of that destabilizing anything is quite low, I would assume, since it's just DDR.
Well, no. I would, if we're going to do a release candidate too, I'd want to take the latest code. So, but what we're going to make sure that we pass all the same tests that we passed to create release candidate 1.
Right. Okay, and so do you think that merging that DDR support for Windows in between RC1 and RC2 is likely to destabilize things substantially?
If I think it's going to destabilize things, then I won't even approve the review and merge it.
Okay. I admire your confidence.
Well, any destabilization is going to be unintentional.
Sure.
And the DDR changes are going to be billed and to the Java code that we use for DDR. So it shouldn't destabilize the VM.
Right. That was the point I thought I was trying to make earlier.
But yes, I'm just restating it to make sure it's clear.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Right, but it's not the DDR part that's going to destabilize the actual VM. It's all the other changes that have occurred since RC1.
Okay. But don't we have other? Weren't there other fixes that we're going to have to go into OpenJ9 as well to address the other problems that we're still having with 0.9, like the JCK failure that was happening? Or those aren't OpenJ9?
Yes, it's possible. We haven't identified what the problem is yet. It seems to be intermittent. And you know what that means?
Yes, I do. Although I will blithely choose not to state it.
No one's saying anything.
Out loud, I mean, explicitly. Okay. Yeah, I was trying to kind of reason through the alternatives between continuing to jam stuff into 0.9 versus trying to cut 0.9 and have a reasonably soon 0.10. I guess it sounds like I think I'm at the same point you guys were 5 minutes ago, which is, you know, you can play it by ear, kind of how things go.
So, by the way, when I was looking at the requirements for Eclipse releases, if we just do a bug fix update, so if we do a 091 that doesn't contain new features, it's bug fixes only, we do not need an approval from Eclipse.
Okay, but that would require us to only add things to the branch from which we released 0.9, presumably.
Or just determine there's no new features if we take the latest. It's only bug fixes.
Okay, I believe that. Okay, sure, yes.
Awfully big bug fixes.
Every missing feature is a bug, right?
It depends how much time passes between 09 and 091. If it's a week or a couple of weeks, maybe only bug fixes have gone into the code.
Yeah, it's a global. It's not just an OpenJ9 thing though, right? It's also OMR and the work that's been going into OMR.
Okay, but we're not releasing OMR. We're just using some of the OMR code in OpenJ9. We've never asked for an OMR release approval.
Directly. It's because you're taking OMR and releasing it yourself. You're taking responsibility for OMR as a code base, right?
But we're not taking it as something that's reusable. We're just using it.
No, but you're using the code that's there. All I'm saying is that if a feature was added to something in OMR, that would count as a feature, not as a bug fix.
But that feature would somehow have to be exposed via Java.
Okay, I'm not sure of the true significance of the word somehow in
Well, if you
your
add
point, that's unlikely. I think
if you add
actually
in a JIT builder that's a new feature, that's not exposed via Java. Nobody could actually use it.
yeah, sure, okay. That's true. There are things in OMR that are not used in OpenJ9, but there are still an awful lot of things in OMR that are used by OpenJ9. So all I'm saying is you have to check both. I'm not trying to make any grander statement than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
We are down to our final 8 to 9 minutes, so I think we should probably continue this discussion via mailing list or via Slack. Are there any other issues people want to bring up on the call today?
Well, I'm having a trouble deciding which is my favorite phrase to create a t-shirt from. Is it any destabilization is going to be unintentional, or is it every missing feature is a bug? to be determined later.
One on the front, one on the back, maybe.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Then the next call will be July 4th. Reconvene then. Thank you, everybody, for joining the call, and we'll pick this up in a week.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.